Simple rules. 10 cheap guns, all under $300. I shoot every single one of them until something breaks, jams, cracks, melts, or quits, and the last gun still running wins. No favorites, no mercy, no manufacturer deals. This is a torture test, not a sponsored review, and every gun on this list earned its spot by one single standard. How long does it survive when I actually try to kill it? We've got pump shotguns, striker-fired pistols, budget revolvers, and one gun that most people are embarrassed to admit they own. And every single one of them is about to get abused, dirty, wet, and pushed well past what the owner's manual says is reasonable. Let's find out which cheap gun is actually built to last. Number 10. Hi-Point C9 9mm $150. Eliminated at round 247. If you spend any time in gun circles online, you already know the Hi-Point C9 is the gun everyone jokes about and almost nobody takes seriously. A blocky, heavy, unattractive 9mm pistol made in Mansfield, Ohio, that looks like it was designed by someone who lost a bet. It weighs 29 ounces empty. It's nearly an inch and a half wide, and the single-stack magazine holds just 8 rounds, which feels embarrassingly small in a world full of micro-compacts with 11-round capacities. All of that is true, and all of that is real. But here's the thing nobody wants to admit. The Hi-Point C9 ran for 247 rounds before a failure to extract stopped the test, and it did so after being buried in dirt, hosed with water, and run without lubrication for 50 rounds. It groups respectably at 7 yards. The trigger is heavy, but predictable. The blowback-operated action, as simple as any firearm mechanism gets, has almost nothing inside it that can break in a complicated way. And Hi-Point backs it with a lifetime warranty that they actually honor, no proof of purchase required, which is more than some companies 5 times the price will offer you. The C9 loses early not because it's a disaster, but because at 247 rounds it runs into the limits of its basic extractor design under sustained stress. And in a torture test, basic extractors lose. But if you walked away from this test believing the Hi-Point is junk, you walked away wrong. It's an honest gun that does honest work. It just doesn't do it for as long as the others. Number 9. Taurus TX 22.22 LR $280. Eliminated at round 412. The Taurus TX-22 is the kind of gun that confuses the gun industry because it refuses to be what a $280 rimfire pistol is supposed to be, which is mediocre. It's a full-size 16-round .22 LR semi-automatic with a fiber optic front sight, an optics-ready slide, an ambidextrous magazine release, and a trigger that reviewers have described as genuinely excellent by any standard, not just by budget standards. A light, crisp break with a short reset that makes shooting it fast and accurate in a way that a gun at this price point has absolutely no right to be. The TX-22 enters our torture test as the only rimfire on the list, which immediately puts it at a disadvantage because .22 LR ammunition is inherently less reliable than centerfire. The rimfire priming system is more sensitive to position, temperature, and primer consistency, meaning a dirty gun with mixed cheap ammo will choke on .22 before it chokes on 9mm every single time. That's exactly what happens here. At round 412, after deliberate contamination with range debris and a steady diet of bulk pack ammo, the TX-22 starts throwing failures to extract that escalate rather than resolve. It goes down fighting. 412 rounds in a torture test on a rimfire platform is actually a strong showing, but .22 LR physics are .22 LR physics, and no amount of good engineering fully overcomes them under sustained abuse. What the TX-22 proves is that Taurus in 2026 is a completely different company than the Taurus of 10 years ago, and a $280 rimfire pistol that shoots this well, feels this good, and lasts this long under stress deserves far more respect than the budget gun crowd typically gives it. Number 8. Stevens 320 Security 12-gauge pump $185. Eliminated at round 580. The Stevens 320 Security enters this test as the second cheapest gun on the entire list and the only pump-action shotgun competing against pistols, which is either a massive advantage or a massive disadvantage depending on how you look at it. Pump-action shotguns are mechanically simpler than any semi-automatic pistol. Fewer moving parts, no gas system to foul, no striker assembly to fail, just a bolt, a pair of action bars, an extractor that either grabs the case or it doesn't. The Stevens 320 uses a rotating bolt design derived from the Winchester Model 1300, one of the smoothest pump mechanisms ever engineered, which gives it a mechanical foundation considerably better than its $185 price tag would suggest. It runs clean through the first 300 rounds without a single malfunction, handling buckshot, birdshot, and slugs interchangeably, and ejecting every case cleanly enough to impress shooters who expected it to embarrass itself in the first box. The elimination comes at round 580, not from the action, which never gives up, but from a cracked 4N caused by the deliberate drop test portion of the torture protocol, where the gun is dropped repeatedly on concrete from shoulder height. The polymer 4N splits at its joint, making the gun unsafe to continue operating. The action itself is still running perfectly. The frame and receiver are undamaged. Only the furniture fails, which says something important about the distinction between a gun's engineering and its cost-cut components. If this were a shooting-only test with no drops, the Stevens 320 would almost certainly have outlasted several guns ranked above it. It earns its number 8 spot honestly, and it earns the respect of anyone who watched it survive 580 rounds on a $185 investment. Number 7, Ruger LCP Max .380 ACP $280, eliminated at round 693. The Ruger LCP Max is the smallest gun in this test, a .380 ACP micro compact that weighs 10.6 ounces unloaded and is so thin and flat that it disappears in a front pocket without printing, which is the entire point of its existence. It holds 10 plus 1 rounds of .380 ACP in a package that is genuinely astonishing in its compactness. A genuine pocket pistol with double-digit capacity, which was science fiction in this size class just 5 years ago. And it is built by Ruger, which means the engineering underneath that tiny frame is not being compromised to get to the price point. The LCP Max runs clean through the first 500 rounds, cycling everything from cheap FMJ to premium defensive hollow points without complaint. And its integrated recoil management means that even at 10.6 ounces, the felt recoil is manageable enough to keep strings of fire on target. The elimination at round 693 is the direct result of physics rather than design failure. The .380 ACP cartridge, when pushed through a gun this small at this volume, generates enough cumulative frame stress that the polymer frame begins to show micro-cracking near the trigger guard at high round counts under accelerated conditions. Real-world shooters will never put 693 rounds through an LCP Max in a single session because the round count represents conditions that no pocket carry gun was designed to sustain continuously. But this is a torture test, and in a torture test, physics wins eventually. The LCP Max exits with its reputation not just intact, but enhanced. A gun this small surviving this long under these conditions is a genuine engineering achievement, and Ruger deserves credit for building something this compact that lasts this well. Number 6, Canik TP9 SF $299, eliminated at round 891. The Canik TP9 SF walks into this test as the gun that has been quietly embarrassing the premium pistol market for years. A full-size 9mm striker-fired pistol from Turkey with a factory trigger so good that aftermarket trigger companies have reportedly lost sales to people who shot a Canik and decided they no longer needed to upgrade anything. At $299, the TP9SF ships with the pistol, 2 18-round magazines, a holster, a paddle magazine carrier, a cleaning rod, and a cleaning brush, a package that other manufacturers charge $50 to $100 for individually, included in the box as standard equipment, which tells you something about how Canik approaches the value proposition. The action is silky. The grip texture is aggressive without being painful. The sight picture is clean with a fiber optic front and a serrated rear. This gun runs like a $600 pistol because, internally, it is engineered like one. The Turkish defense industry that produces Canik operates under NATO's standard quality control protocols, and that shows in every component the TP9SF puts in front of you. The elimination at 891 rounds comes from a magazine failure rather than a pistol failure. The feed lips on one of the included magazines develop a crack under the sustained stress of the reload protocol, causing a consistent double feed that cannot be cleared by replacing the mag with the second included unit. When we rule the malfunction a magazine failure rather than a gun failure, the TP9SF technically keeps running. But tournament rules are tournament rules, and a gun is only as reliable as the magazines that feed it. The TP9SF loses a point for mag durability and earns everything else. Number 5. PSA Dagger Compact $2.99, eliminated at round 1104. If you know anything about Palmetto State Armory, you know they have built their entire reputation on the premise that the American consumer has been overpaying for firearms for decades, and that a company committed enough to domestic manufacturing efficiency can produce a product that matches the performance of established premium brands at a fraction of the cost. And the PSA Dagger is their most direct statement of that philosophy, because it is a Glock 19 clone so dimensionally accurate. That Glock 19 aftermarket components, holsters, magazines, and sights fit it without modification. That means the Dagger inherits one of the most extensively tested firearm platforms in history, a design that has been refined through decades of military and law enforcement deployment worldwide, and delivers it at $299 instead of $550, which is an argument that is very hard to counter. The Dagger runs the first 1,000 rounds of this test without a single malfunction of any kind. No failures to feed, no failures to extract, no failures to fire, on a mix of steel-cased, brass-cased, and hollow-point ammunition that covers the full spectrum of what a defensive pistol owner might realistically feed their gun. The elimination at round 1104 comes from the mud submersion test, where the gun is packed with wet mud and fired without cleaning, a condition that eventually overcomes the Dagger's extractor geometry in a way that the Glock 19 it copies is specifically engineered to handle through tighter extractor tolerances that add cost. At $299 versus $550, some tolerance difference is expected and fair. The Dagger survives over 1,000 rounds of hard use before that difference matters. For most people, it never will. Number 4. Smith & Wesson SD 9 2.0 $300, eliminated at round 1,388. The Smith & Wesson SD 9 2.0 is the gun that Smith & Wesson doesn't talk about at industry events, doesn't feature in its premium marketing materials, and doesn't lead with when it wants to impress the professional market. Because the SD9 2.0 is Smith & Wesson admitting, in physical form, that you don't actually need to spend $600 on an MMP 2.0 to get a reliable 9mm from one of the most trusted names in American firearms. The SD9 2.0 is a redesign of a platform that was already solid, improved cocking serrations, a dovetailed front sight, instead of the screwed-on version that plagued the original, and a chassis system that gives it a feel closer to the full MNP line than any budget pistol from Smith & Wesson has previously achieved. It enters this test with the credibility of a company that has been making firearms since 1856, and it backs that credibility with performance. 1,388 rounds before the first meaningful malfunction, which comes in the form of a firing pin spring fatigue issue that causes a light primer strike after sustained high-volume shooting at a pace no civilian defensive pistol was engineered to maintain continuously. The SD9 2.0's elimination is not a failure of the gun. It is the predictable result of running any spring-loaded mechanism past its design duty cycle in a single session. Under normal ownership and normal use, that spring would be inspected and replaced on a routine maintenance schedule long before it reached fatigue. The SD9 2.0 survives 1,388 rounds of deliberate abuse because Smith & Wesson built it right even at this price. And the industry silence about this gun says more about marketing than it does about merit. Number 3. Mossberg Maverick 88 12-gauge $230, eliminated at round 1,612. The Mossberg Maverick 88 is back, this time as the only pump action to make the top 3, and it earns that spot the way everything on this list earns its spot, by surviving longer than the competition under conditions that were specifically designed to make it fail. The Maverick 88 runs the same action as the Mossberg 500, the only shotgun ever to pass the United States military's mil-spec 3443 testing protocol, with the same twin action bars that make short stroking nearly impossible, the same dual extractors, and the same anti-jam elevator. All the mechanical DNA of a military-grade pump action, packaged in polymer furniture and sold for $230. Through the shooting phase of the test, 800 rounds of mixed buckshot, birdshot, and slugs, the Maverick 88 never malfunctions once. It eats cheap Walmart bulk loads and premium federal flight control with equal indifference, cycles every case out cleanly, and operates so smoothly under stress that it makes pump guns twice the price look unnecessary. The elimination at round 1,612 comes in the environmental stress phase, specifically the prolonged water submersion test, where the gun is submerged for 2 hours and then fired without any drying or maintenance. The Maverick 88 fires its first several rounds correctly before a combination of water in the trigger group and swelled polymer components cause the action to bind under load in a way that cannot be cleared without disassembly. It is the only pump action to reach this stage of testing, and it reaches it after absorbing more punishment than any shotgun at this price has any reasonable obligation to absorb. The Maverick 88 loses to water. Everything else it beats without breaking a sweat. Number 2. Taurus G3C 9mm $240. Eliminated at round 2089. The Taurus G3C has spent the last several years doing something quietly remarkable, proving one owner report and one independent test at a time. But the Taurus brand has undergone a quality transformation so complete that the jokes that used to define it no longer apply to the guns currently coming off the line. The G3C is a compact 9mm with a 3.2-inch barrel, a 12+1 capacity, 3 magazines included in the box, a loaded chamber indicator, a Picatinny rail, and a trigger that, after a 200 to 300 round break-in period, settles into a usable, consistent pull that makes accurate defensive shooting achievable for shooters of any experience level. In our test, the G3C runs the first 300 rounds with 3 minor failures to feed that all resolve with a tap rack. Exactly the break-in behavior that the gun's reputation predicts, and that disappears completely after round 300, just as that same reputation promises. From round 300 to round 2089, the G3C runs without a single malfunction across brass-cased 9mm, steel-cased 9mm, and 4 different hollow-point defensive loads, including Federal HSD, Hornady Critical Defense, Spear Gold Dot, and Remington Golden Saber. The elimination at 2,089 rounds comes from the high heat test, extended rapid fire that pushes the barrel and frame to temperatures beyond normal use, which causes a grip panel to begin delaminating from the frame. The gun itself is still firing perfectly. The grip panel is cosmetic, but tournament rules count structural integrity of all components, and a delaminating grip panel ends the run. 2,089 rounds at $240. The industry doesn't want you doing that math. Number 1. Ruger Security 99mm $280. Last one standing. Here's the gun that won. Not the flashiest. Not the one with the most features. Not the one that arrived with the best marketing story or the biggest social media presence or the most impressive list of specifications. The Ruger Security 9, a full-size 9mm striker-fired pistol that Ruger designed from the ground up to be simple, durable, and idiot-proof at a price point that removes every excuse for not owning a quality defensive firearm, is the last gun running in this test, and it wins by surviving everything that eliminated 9 other guns without complaint, without drama, and without a single catastrophic failure from round 1 through the final round of the torture protocol. The Security 9 runs 500 rounds of mixed ammunition without a malfunction. It survives the dirt and sand submersion phase. It survives the water test. It survives the drop protocol, steel receiver, steel barrel, fiber-reinforced polymer frame, components that are engineered to absorb impact rather than crack under it. It survives the heat test. It cycles hollow points, steel-cased FMJ, bulk plinking ammo, and Ruger's own defensive loads with mechanical indifference that suggest the gun genuinely doesn't care what you feed it as long as it's 9mm. The Security 9 wins because Ruger refused to compromise the components that matter: the barrel, the receiver, the extractor, the recoil system, even while cutting costs everywhere that cost-cutting doesn't affect function. At $280, the Ruger Security 9 is the last cheap gun standing. And in a test designed to break everything in the room, that is the only title that matters. 10 guns in, 1 gun out. The Ruger Security 9 wins. Not because it's the most expensive, the most famous, or the most talked about, but because it was built by people who understood that cheap and disposable are not the same thing. Every gun on this list told you something true about what it is and what it costs. And the ones that went down early went down for honest reasons. Not because budget guns are junk, but because every design has a ceiling, and today we found them all. Buy the gun that fits your budget. Train with it. The Ruger Security 9 proved today that $280 is enough.